Richmond players in the bar. And I said, Jack, when I came, I said, there's four present-day players in the bar. They're having a drink, Jack. He said, they said they don't worry today. He said, they're all professional men. I said, what do you mean? He said, they're engineers or nuclear physiotherapists or something, you know. And that was Jack, you know.
Well, today we pointed out to people he started his life as a panel beater, as an apprentice panel beater, and
didn't use a hammer.
Started beating up people on the field rather than panels. He was in the police force for 10 years. He owned a flower shop.
Well, Bob Davis upset him about that because...
He was a publican?
Well, he was in the police force with Ted Rippon and Laurie Nash. And we struck the commissioner one day and he told Jack, tell us about Jack that, and he said, and tell Jack to bring back his bike pump and his bike clips.
Had his bike clips, that's right, his trouser clips.
But he sold them.
Yeah, he did one day when he was, I don't know whether he was a detective or just the ordinary...
No, he wasn't a detective.
Didn't he become a detective?
No.
Oh, well, he was in the CID.
He had a magnifying glass.
Well, anyway, they sent him out to Footscray somewhere to one of those sly grog shops to investigate it. And he got in there and unfortunately got a bit of a skinful, Jack, and he wasn't too good when he came out. And he went out to the car, and he got in, and then he jumped out quick and he got on the phone and he rang the CIB. He said, hey, you better come out. My car won't go. Someone stole the steering wheel. He didn't realise that he'd been sitting in the back before.
You can make up these stories a bit, you know.
The days on World of Sport, Tommy, when you went in there and Tony went in there as coaches and Jack used to, obviously talk to you about the game. I mean, afterwards, did he always come up and just, confide in you about the Tigers and mainly more interested in the Tigers than maybe, any of the other games that took place?
Oh, absolutely. Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you when you know what he's all about? Yeah. It's the Tigers, that was his club, and if he wasn't at that particular game, he'd be always talking about them. Yeah. No, he was black and yellow right through.
He used to like taking things home from World of Sport, like the gold nugget ham, and Bob Davis and Neil Roberts cut it in half and pinched it, you see, and Doug Edgeworth do the commercial.
He was allowed to take them home. We don't want people thinking that Jack was a bit like
you weren't allowed to take these home anyway, but the whole proof socks are you allowed to take home anyway. They'd knocked off the ham, they put it back, but all of a sudden there's something else missing, and they're all standing around there, and Jack's got his handkerchief up here, so they said, put that back! And all of a sudden Jack pulled it, and 3 pairs of socks jumped out of his pocket. And this is the way it used to go. That's why the show was so great, because everyone was mates, and Bill Collins was the biggest scandal of the lot too, teasing people, wasn't he? Shocker.
Yeah. There's a bit of talk in the press that maybe Punt Road should be renamed the Jack Dyer Oval. You got a thought on that, Tony? You're down there, you're on the board of the Richmond Football Club. It is going to be discussed, we believe, at board level.
Well, I think it's got merit. The only thing, we've been known for so long, the boys from Punt Road or the Punt, and Punt Road seems to also synonymous with Richmond. That, I reckon it's got merit.
Well, you could have the Jack Dyer Punt Road Oval, couldn't you?
Yeah. Of course you get one. It's called the Dyer Oval.
Certainly to honour him forever, and that'd be great.
They'd be saying diarrhea, wouldn't it?
Diarrhea. Well, even Victoria Park's called the Jock McHale Stadium
now. It is. Yeah, I think that'd be very
Stadium.
traditional. It'd be very good to do it for Jack because he deserves it. And Bob and I have had some wonderful times with him, and Casey absolutely idolised him. He wanted him to do something, and he couldn't get in touch with him, so he said to his secretary, he said, why don't you send us a telegram over his place? So we sent a telegram over, no answer. Sent another telegram, urgent telegram, no answer. And he sent the third one, the real urgent one with the red, And Jack, she said, why don't you gaze on over in that street off Lennox Street, Docker Street. Go across. Anyway, Casey decides to go over, knocks on the door, and there's Jack comes to the door, and he looks over and on the mantel shelf with the three telegrams unopened. And Casey said, the telegrams, Jack, you didn't open. He said, no, I never opened a telegram. And Casey said, why? He said, it could be bad news.
He was marvellous like that, wasn't he? In terms of, all the catchphrases.
They were true sayings, really, weren't they?
True sayings from Jack right throughout that period of time.
Yeah.
Well, I put this tie on especially today for Jack because the AFL sent it to us, and there it is. There's, if you don't mind, umpire. There he is, right on the front of the tie cap.
What about in terms of World of Sport? Just who came up with the idea to sit Jack at one end of the World of Sport,
Casey.
And then, of course, Lou Richards was at the other end, and you sat next to Jack?
Yeah, I sat next to Jack.
You were there just to what?
Just to annoy Jack, yeah.
So to keep prodding him?
Yeah, and I'd say, You hear what he said up that in? Who is he, the little whippersnapper?
So you'd argue actually across the table.
Yeah, well,
the rest of us who actually made World of Sport in those days, which was a great thrill, we were just sort of like cutouts. We were just sort of in between, whilst Jack and Lou at either end, and then of course Bob sort of egging both of them on. You know, conducted the whole show.
Well, league teams were the same. He put Bob in between the two of us there, but Jack, really seriously, never had a great sense of humour. He was pretty serious, and the more serious Jack was, the funnier he was. He used to look, you know, and I used to say to Bob, now, you repeat what I'm going to say, and I said, now, and it's just going to be the gag I'm going to tell. Why don't ants have balls? And Bob said, and Jack would say, oh, righto, you two. And Bob would say, no, why don't ants have balls? And I said, because they can't dance, you know, and Jack couldn't get over this. He'd get upset, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah, he got very